Just how are you today anyway? How's things?
I am excited. I'm happy. Um, Definitely a range of emotions. We had one of our management meetings the other day, and we always do like the year that was, that 12-month recap on where we were and everything that we've sort of gone through and achieved this year. So I think some people got a little bit emotional. Some people, because we really do live in our own little bubble. And it's not until you sort of pause for a moment and start reflecting that you go, okay, maybe we've achieved a lot more than what we initially intended. So it's been really good. So
Do you
can't
want to
complain.
share anything about what positive things this year? Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, I'm happy to share lots of things.
Yes.
It's just if it's what you'd like to hear about, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay. Well, as we're talking about, like how are your things with the management a meeting? That recap the year that was. Is there something particular that stands out?
Well, Age, our CEO, sort of ran the meeting, and as he basically said, he goes, it's something that he could have spoken for days about. And I think you go through things at the moment and you look at our staff growth, the fact that now we're finishing the year on 95 staff. We've almost doubled in size from a center um, perspective, where now we have 350 services that we're catering for. We've opened up, and that's only Melbourne. So then
Wow.
you add on top of that Ballarat, Geelong. We're opening up Bendigo as the 1st of January. So
Yep.
we'll have a presence now in Bendigo, and I believe we've already now picked up, it's close to 20 services. I just even
Fantastic.
was up there at the end of the last week doing Christmas parties and finishing up on some trials and some other bits and pieces. It really has come down to looking at how much progress we've made as a company, but more importantly, how many people we've brought in to share that with. So, as I said, like I even now just saying to you, where we were nominated as Banyul's representative in the Northern Business Award, which was huge because Robbie, my business partner, and I didn't actually realize the significance of the award. It was almost like, oh, awesome, we've been nominated for something, yay. And as the year progressed and more people started looking into us and finding out about us, it's like, okay,
Wow.
maybe there's something about this here. And now it's only been a couple of weeks post award ceremony. And whilst we didn't win the Business of the Year award, we actually won an excellence in business practices and HR, which I think speaks volumes for everything that we've done and been able to achieve.
Absolutely. And you're doing something right when it's about staff.
I hope
Right.
so.
When it's
I
the
hope so.
business practice. You know what I mean? Like, we all hope we're doing something that our staff are, are happy with, but to actually be acknowledged in that is a huge achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you for that.
Now, look, what we do is we ask our guests as a first question to talk about your journey in the sector. How did you come to be part of the early learning sector? What was your journey?
Uh, I think like all business journeys, it has its ups and downs and its roundabouts and its speed humps and its amber lights and red lights. It's just the joys of being in business in that regard. Uh, but I almost look at things and I say through that journey, we've encountered so many different things. I know Robbie and myself, where we started with, it was me and him and a couple of staff. And this is going back 7.5 years ago to looking at what we've achieved today, as I said, is really monumental. I
Yeah,
know the last
yeah.
18 months for us has almost been a bit of a rebirth, I'll call it that way, because I know we had some very tricky moments over the last few years. But I think where we came back 18 months ago, we had potentially two fresh companies because we've got Little Sports Heroes and Little Support Heroes as well, which is our NDIS registered brand. And to see what we've been able to achieve in that time, to go from basically a fresh start again to what was originally 178 services at the start of the year to now 350 is huge. I know even now coming into next year, we've made some bold plans, but the whole point is to bring people along that journey with us.
Yep. That's fantastic, and that's such a huge growth in such a short time as well. So you've been doing something really, really great, and to be acknowledged for that, as you said about with the award. Wow, we've
Mm.
got lots to talk about and unpack today, George. Let's see what we can share with our audience.
I'd like to think I'm a very open book. As everyone says, I probably should learn to lie a lot more. So, but I guess I'm at your mercy today, so ask away.
Yeah, look, it's all conversational fun and all about, we're here as a sector, and as you know, it's such a small place. Everyone knows everyone, and we're all trying to do really our best for the children that we're all supporting, no matter what we're in, and where we're coming from. And our topic today is we prepared for is the classic performance review question: where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And how do you how do you do that? How do you answer that? Look, and usually the classic answer is, oh, I don't know. How do we work through that? What's your recipe, I suppose, for success?
Find a lot of really, really good people and then employ them, because they're definitely a lot smarter than me. Uh, I think this year, for us, we always go through a bit of a review process. So every 12 months, we do, I'm going to say, a major company review. But then along the journey of the 12-month period, there's always little
Yep.
things that you look to refine, clean up, touch up, or look to what you can do better moving forward. There's no point allowing little things to fester to become big issues, and then you're dealing with a big issue at the end of the year. Now, I think over the last 18 months, the biggest thing for us was looking as we're growing, what are the various systems and practices that we can put in place to not only, I guess, grow from a company point of view, but to better support a lot of the people that we employ. Now, working very closely with Age, and who's our COO, and Robbie, who's my business partner and CFO, it was a case of how can we now start showing people that there's a future in what we do. I think sports coaching has always been seen as something which is a part-time job or a casual job, or I'm passing through until I finish my school. And to be fair, the majority of people that we attract is between that, I'm going to say 19 to 25 age bracket. And it's hard enough where we turn around and we expect 18-year-olds to know what they want to do with their future and go to uni, where so many of the times they start a course, change a course, or they might change how many jobs through that period. So it's almost where we had our eyes open to what the existing problems were going to be. But what we also discovered is that people love to feel a part of something. I think as humans, we're very tribal. We find something we like or a group of people we like, and we really want to stick to it and be a part of that. And where the question in the business term is, how can I basically make someone care about something that isn't theirs? And it's the biggest riddle for
Yes.
every business owner going around. Now, for me, the one thing that I've always said, and I guess everything starts from the top, it's the culture, the philosophy, and the beliefs that we have as owners that then filters through to everyone. Now, one of the biggest things from a cultural point of view that we hold as a company is that the only way that you can progress and move forward is to help basically the person to the left and right of you. No one is able to have success on their own. It doesn't work. We always need a team. And to feel a part of that team and a part of that progression means that everyone basically, even if it does take a little bit longer, don't get me wrong, nothing happens overnight, but they all find their place in amongst that. So
Yes.
I know Age was really big on doing a lot of internal staff reviews. I believe this year alone he's done 120 staff reviews. So that's for some people 3, 6, and 12-month reviews through that. And I think going through that process, it really is breaking down one, what people want to do. I think the moment you enjoy what you're doing, then it's a case of then expanding on that and saying, well, you love doing this. So what are your strongest attributes? What are the things that we can then help and support you or help you develop and refine to basically take you to the next level? There are so many people who, I can say 6 years ago, we've had staff that came in. It's like, yep, I'm here until I finish my uni degree, and next thing you know, they're still here for another 2, 3 years afterwards. I'm like, well, what happened? This was meant to be a short-term job, and I think once you're a part of a really strong and positive culture, everyone wants to grow with that. The growth we have as a company doesn't exist without the people that we're basically nurturing and bringing through.
Absolutely. And also, the benefit of that is then your business grows, but with really good people around you and those that want to stay, because all of a sudden they can also see a career development.
I think you will always attract what you are. Now, if we, and you asked the question early days about I guess, what the journey was like for us. Now, as much as I'd love to say that people show the true colors in good times, it's never the case. It's once we face difficulties and adversity that we can turn around and say, yep, this is what I really stand for. As a business owner, it's all good and well for me to turn around and say, yes, I want to invest in my people and trust in my people and support my people. But when push comes to shove and things get hard, am I the person who says, well, you know what, I'm going to take over and do it myself? Or am I going to be the one there to say, you know what, let's actually work through this together and let me help you because mistakes will happen. That's part of the process. So I've never met anyone that's perfect. I'm not perfect. I know you're not perfect. No one is. We all make mistakes.
Oh, no, 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 that's exactly
And
right. We're
I,
not. We're not made this
correct.
way.
And I think it's more the ability to take someone under your wing and say, awesome, let's go through this together. Because once they feel a part of that, there's a whole different side to them that comes out, and that's the side that we want. So if we're staying true to our own beliefs and philosophies, and as I said, like for us, we ooze culture. Anyone that comes in, and I tell everyone, it doesn't matter how big we get as a company, I never want us to lose that close knit family side. That's what made us who we are. That's what got us to this point.
And that's what will grow you.
Correct. And I think
Absolutely.
the more things happen, everything for us has been word of mouth. So whether that be from a center point of view or a staffing point of view, when people are happy with what they have and they really see the benefit in that, then it's a case of who else can I bring in to be a part of this?
And so, from what you're saying, then your staff retention would be very good.
I'm going to say that we very rarely lose a staff member that we don't want to. I did change our business model roughly 8 months ago, where I know a lot of people are having difficulty at the moment finding staff. And I think for us, we're probably a little bit luckier in the context that we have a wider pool to take from because we're in early childhood. Basically, the rules and regulations are very strict. It's either you've got a Cert 3, a diploma, you could be studying more towards a teaching background and going through that way. Other than that, it's you're bringing someone in and then enrolling them into a Cert 3 or diploma. So it's a very narrow pool to take and to sort of find a lot of people that you want that fit your business model and your culture internally in a service. Where for us, we have the, I guess, the benefit of taking from early education, PT, exercise physiology. We can take teachers. We can sort of take from so many different areas because it really comes down to: are you passionate about working with children? Are you interested in maybe going down a sporting route or an NDIS route? That means that
Yep.
automatically, like we've just three times our pool of people that we can take from. So looking at that, and because personally I don't believe in contracts, I know a lot of services or a lot of people feel really safe when they sign a piece of paper and it says, I am contracted to this. End of the day, whether it be my brand or theirs, there's something there to protect. And if the quality of the
Yep.
product is not to the standard that it needs to be, anything that happens after that is diminishing both brands. So for me, I tell everyone where I don't want a contract, I don't believe in a contract. All I want is the opportunity to prove that we can maintain this standard. And the fact that, as I said, after how many years, the fact that we have so many services not only staying on board but even recommending others is a testament to one, the quality of output, but also the quality of personnel coming in.
Wow. Yes. And look, I have to just, I know we've been speaking for a little while, and I'm just
Mm.
going to share something that you shared with me a while back. So, when you were starting to build that business, wasn't there something about a coffee delivery and things like that that you got your name up there with?
Look, everyone says you've got to market, you've got to market, you've got to market. Now I go, okay, so what does that look like? And they'll talk about social media posts, and they'll talk about website appeal, and they'll talk about could be radio ads or signage everywhere. And I said, okay, well, I'm not really big on technology up until I think just recently. Our staff are the ones who drive our social media page, so I'm definitely not taking credit for any of that. Um, but what I can do really well, and this is I think a fault of my father's, because he always said to me, he goes, if any time you're going to sit down and speak with someone, there has to be a coffee between you. Now, for some educators, it could be a hot chocolate, it could be a milkshake, it could be literally a bottle of water or a bottle of Coke. It doesn't matter. But end of the day, we're going to sit
Yeah.
down, we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to do so having a drink because I think too many people, and I've been in services with this where this has happened, where people come in and they want to sell a product or they want to sell their brand or an activity or it could be anything. And all they do is they come in, hi, yep, do you mind if I leave this here? Thank you, and leave. I'm like, well, no offense. Who are you? What are you doing? What are you selling? How is it in anyone's interest? Like the greatest investment that people make is in people. Like I still stand by this where whether it's the people that we employ from a company point of view or the directors and educators that we work with day to day, the greatest investment we have ever made is in those people. It's those people who turn around and they make recommendations. They see the value in what we have to offer. They see the value in how we can work together. Like I openly turn around to everyone and I tell them the only thing you'll ever pay for with us is the services that we deliver and maybe your Christmas parties. If it's a marketing event or if it's something that helps you grow your brand and shows the value of your product to the community, tell me, I'm coming. I'm not charging you anything. Why? Because one, you're going to get your brand out and you're going to show everyone, look, these are the type of programs that we're offering. This is the level of quality that we want for your child. And as part of that, you know
Yep,
what, you're also helping me. So it's a win-win for all parties. So the exchange of
absolutely.
value goes
And
both ways. It can't just be, I'm going to take money off you, I'm going to grow my brand and maybe you get a service. It doesn't work like that. Business never has.
no, it's and that's the business is relationship, absolutely. And what you're talking about, all of those things, you can apply to any business outside of the sector, inside the sector. So we have, obviously some of our audience will be owners and approved providers that may have multiple businesses, outside the sector that they listening to you do, talk about how you keep that relationship, can apply to
Well, for the
anyone's
first,
business.
I think it was the first 18 months, I was known as the coffee guy. I wasn't even known as George or a sports
Sure.
program. I wasn't known as anything. I was known as the coffee guy. So when a director would go and recommend our program to someone else, it'd be, yeah, you got to call the coffee guy. And they're like, hold on, I've got to call the coffee guy to find out about a sports program. How does that work? And after about 18 months, people went, you know what? We really should remember his name. And then everyone goes, no, you've got to call George. And they said, okay, awesome. What's the company? And no one knew the
Yeah.
company. So it's almost where we've gone through this progression from early days to now. And I just openly tell everyone where I'm a nobody because at least you can't refer to someone say, you know what, get nobody in, they're going to do a great job. But I think where the business, our whole business was built through me and the relationships that I had with people. And I think that put a lot of the up and coming staff at a disadvantage. People only wanted to deal with an owner. People only wanted to deal with myself, where they were just as competent, if not better than me, but they weren't given that opportunity. So I think a very valuable lesson that I learned early days was sometimes I need to get out of my own way and start trusting people more. Because at the end of the day, I'm just one person. There's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so much I can do. Yet with the team that we have behind us at the moment, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, that's fair. And look, if we go back to the where do you want to be and the I don't know, what you've just basically said is that your staff, through your performance reviews, through the way you build your team, there is like that wonderful culture. There's that you're looking to build on strengths and use people to the roles that they are suited, but also give them that, that ownership and responsibility that it's their business
It
as
comes
well.
down to certain old values I think that a lot of people had where be honest, be respectful, be courteous. Like these, I don't think these things will ever get old. If we treat people with respect, I believe that even if it's not straight away, people will always come back and treat you with the same courtesy. Now, for a lot of the
Yes.
staff that we have coming through, in the olden days, we used to turn around and say, well, go work at this company. You can start at the bottom and then work your way all the way up to the top. Now, I think through the years and I guess corporations coming about, that whole journey became a lot harder. Where I look at how we've grown as a company, and I can honestly say that our CIO started with us 4 years ago, and he's gone from being just a regular coach to now running the sports side of the company. And like you look at that and you go, that's progression, that's a future. The fact that our management team, yeah,
And that's
in four
it's
years.
4 years.
Now, our
You know,
management team, we have now
yeah,
currently across sport and support, there's 17 people that make up our management team. So we have 17 people who are overseeing, what is it, another 90 minus 20, say 70 people. Like that, they're across the board. We are such a broadly spread out company. So a lot of that is communication, it's teamwork, it's the ability to work together. And again, what's the example coming from the
Yep.
top? All of us, Robbie, myself, Age,
Yep.
we all still work in services. We have our finger on the pulse. It's not like we make a decision up top and don't understand the repercussions at ground level. We're
Where the,
in the trenches with you.
yeah.
For me as an owner, I think it's one of the most important things where I can turn around and say, well, I can relate to what you're going through because I'm there. I'm there with you on a day to day.
Yep.
And that makes people more inclined to
Yep.
want
Yep.
to follow us and want to be part of this journey.
And they feel that connection to the person who's their
I hate that word.
boss,
Sorry.
effectively. I know,
It's
so do I. So do I. But you know what I mean? It's like someone who, at the end of the day, you're number one. You've got to make decisions and finances and all of that sort of thing. But if there's that respect there from those team members because they can see that you're supporting their progression and their life, really, if you think about it, it's a lifelong commitment when you're trying to build a career, do something positive. You want to see that you're
definitely.
valued.
And I think a lot of the examples that I've always understood through business over the years, it always comes down to the same fundamentals. When things go great and everything goes right, it's because of the others. When things go wrong, well, clearly I made a mistake somewhere that needs to be corrected. Now, I think as long as that is something that we can stay true to, then the ability to become complacent sort of drifts away. It's always going to be a possibility because I think one of the things that we have in our office is a board with a lot of our core values that we always refer back to. And we turn around to people and we really point out the fact that success at some point in time will lead to complacency. Complacency leads to failure, and failure leads to learning. And then all of a sudden the cycle repeats. Now, the fact that we are aware of
Yes.
that, that means that every time we feel like we're dropping the ball or something's not right, or we are becoming a little bit complacent in that, we can also become a lot more proactive to deal with things beforehand.
And turn it into a
100%.
positive rather than use it as a opportunity. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, what we did, we talked about change when we were preparing for this episode and the way the sector has evolved over the last 10 years. Can we talk about how children have grown from these changes and how the sector has changed to support and cater for
Definitely.
this?
Evolution and change is coming. It's something that is inevitable, and anyone that tries to stop it is kidding themselves. I'm pretty sure we can agree on that. And the hardest part of that is the fact that change is scary. It's the unknown. So many people at the moment, like we'll have a discussion, and it's a case of what is tomorrow going to bring? What's tomorrow going to look like? The biggest thing that if anyone was to ask me what we did so differently that enabled us to, I guess, make the splash that we have in the sector, I always look at it and I say, well, everything leaves clues. Success leaves clues. Failures leaves clues. Like everything, it's out there for the world to see. Now, I've watched so many things change over the last, say, 10 years, even 20 years. I look at how a lot of programs are delivered in the rooms, and I say people have changed and we've adapted to that. We're catering for children on a very different level. Where beforehand, I can say 5 years ago, it was more about getting a child active, getting them confident to the point where they are more hands-on in a physical sense. Now, whether that be gross or fine motor, I believe all the reports indicated that children coming into prep or into primary school were below certain developmental milestones at a gross and fine motor level. Awesome, no worries. We can now cater for that. What I've probably found now in the last 12 to 18 months, it's not so much the gross and fine motor, but a lot of it comes down to emotional resilience and their ability to not only problem solve, but deal with certain things that may not be to their liking or understanding. As I said, change goes across the board. And it's not just us as adults, it's
It
also
does.
now nurturing children and guiding them through that process. So I know I looked at it from our point of view and said, okay, well, how do we need to adapt our program to cater for this, but also aid children in that progression? And I think even through that now, we still do, we've probably done more staff PDs in the last 12 months than we had in the previous 6. So I think there's a greater collaboration now between us and early childhood services, where we can not only assist the staff in not doing what we do necessarily, but putting very similar strategies in place to make sure that everything is consistent. I tell everyone that we should never be seen as a program that comes into a service, does sport, and then leaves. That whole concept of business not only does not make any sense to me, it's counterproductive to who we want to be as a company. That means that if I'm looking at it, just because my staff come on site, it should almost be a case where our staff representing your brand, where our program should always be
Yes.
intertwined. That means there should be consistency between how our program is being delivered and what you're doing day to day. Children are very, very influential at young ages. They take everything in like a sponge. That means that
They're
it
smart
is,
enough.
and we work with children from 12 months. So if I look at things from a
Yes.
habit perspective, we're talking about instilling positive habits from a young age to assist them in that development and progression. I love the fact that I look at for so many services that we cater for that we've been at now for years. So we're talking the children that we first started working with, say 4 years ago, when they were in the junior toddler rooms, now being in the kinder room. And I look at a program that we're delivering and I say, well, hold on, we're now able not only to execute a skill to pass a ball or kick a ball, but we can now do that with each other. We can actually get two children who may not necessarily be friends in that context to interact and work together. Now, you now
As
correct.
in a
So
sports
I can get,
style
we always set, for
building.
example, dots up, and everyone likes standing next to their friend, never opposite. So you're learning now a different level of tolerance. How hard can I throw a ball? How hard can I kick a ball? Can I control that ball? You're learning things on so many levels that when you look at now a lot of the criteria coming into primary school, it's how do you interact with other children? Are you able to problem solve? Are you able to collaborate and make new friends? Like all these different things that are happening, we're now introducing early in your kinder year. So you look at that and you say, by the end of the year, not only have you developed this sense of independence and you have your own sense of identity, but you're so confident that when it comes to change, you're better prepared for that. Now, if we're looking at that in the younger years, and now I look at how many centers have adapted so well in their programming sense and said, you know what, we can see the children have an interest in this. We can see that this is something that they're really passionate in. How can we incorporate this into the program? There's always communication and collaboration
Yep.
going both ways between the services we look after and us as a company. We even go one step further
Yep.
to where we transcend the service itself. And it's like, okay, awesome. What are the causes that you believe in? Is there a charity? Is there a fundraiser? Is there something that we can do with you to not only just, I guess, help your brand and awareness, but actually deliver a lot of positivity back out into the world? I know this year we did work with Life's Little Treasures and we did the Walk for Prems. Every year we do the Good Friday Appeal. These are things that I think everyone across the board has been touched in some way, shape, or form, or been assisted in some way, shape, or form by the Children's Hospital. We know how many people that have
Yep. Yep.
experienced premature delivery or that have lost a loved one at a young age. These are things that touch us to our core. Now, for us as a company, as I said, we're not the program that comes in, does sport, and leave. If this is something that you believe in, that you are ingraining in your own culture and philosophy as a company, you know what? We're adapting that as well. We're going down that journey with you. And in turn, as I said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go slow, let's go together and let's actually build something meaningful. Everything we've done working with people. And I think as things change and adapt, the more we collaborate and work together, the better prepared we all will be for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you said, that's helping those the services you're in and in the sector, but also helping the educators understand as well. So there's a learning on everyone's part, from the educators right down to the children, that change and how, the impact of, just amazingly enough, like you were talking about throwing balls, how hard that teamwork. But also those educators that are also in that, we have a lot of new and inexperienced staff in the sector these days. Um, having them involved in something that's outside of what they would normally do as well is such a huge part of learning. And now look, what I was going to ask you, as the founder of Little
Mm.
Heroes, and I know we had a great
Oh,
conversation on this, um, but
I hear
we're going
you.
to pick your brain here. Can you share with us what happens in the mind of anyone who is looking to start their own business? What's
Uh,
that thing?
I was asked this recently on a panel, and my first response was when they asked me, "Would you provide any advice to someone who's looking to go into business for themselves?" The first thing I said was, "Don't," and everyone laughed. And I got asked about work life balances, and I said they don't exist. End of the day, I think people that go into business were not normal. I just want to put that out there, and I think anyone who's in business who understands the trials and tribulations that we go through can relate to that. We all have different reasons for going into business, and I think depending on what that reason is, that's almost like the armor that you put on that assists with everything that basically gets thrown at you. Now, I know some people turn around and say, "Oh, what's your why, or what's your cause, or what's your belief?" That's for each individual person. I know for me, I love a challenge and I love helping people and I love making a difference. Like almost someone actually said I was a disruptor in the sector, and I said, well, disruptors normally are bad things. And they said, no, 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 you're disrupting in a good way. Change again, going back to being scary, sometimes is necessary. And I think I look at how we go about things, the care factor and the attention to detail, and that development aspect. It's something that people want to embrace. Now, for anyone who is looking to go into business, the first thing that I have to say across the board, it is hard. Accept that. It's no different to when you go to a doctor and the doctor says, look, I'm going to give you an injection. You're going to feel a small prick, and you go, yep, okay, I know it's coming. Now, if anyone is new to business that listens to this, I'll tell you from now, it is hard. You will encounter difficulties. You will encounter heartbreak. You will encounter a range of different emotions. But it's one of those things where the highs are euphoric and the lows are gut wrenching. And if you can find somewhere in the middle and just don't worry about the destination, forget the destination, it doesn't exist. Enjoy the journey, enjoy what you're a part of. That's,
Every day, every day is that
well,
destination. I figure for you, is it? It's like you get in there every day and
I
just
look
having
at
fun along the
even now,
way.
we've got how many people in the office, and if you were to ask them if they feel what they do is actually work, they'll all turn around to you and go, "What is work?" Like it's foreign to them. We have moments where we are serious and we do have to get things done. But if you one enjoy the people that you work with, you do have that positive culture, that positive network of people around looking to help and support each other. I think anything's possible. And so many centres that we go in, you got to
Yeah.
remember across 350 services that we currently look after in Melbourne, we do how many trials a week? We get to see so many different things at so many different levels. Now, it's always the that remark under someone's breath or things like that. But the one thing that I'll always look at across the board, it is never easy making a decision up top. You show me someone who is loved by all, and I'll show you someone who's wrong. Because the reality is, for us, we have to take a very wide perspective of things. Now, from a business owner's point of view, you have to balance budgets, you have to look at duty of care, you have to look at so many different things. Like it's all risk versus
Oh,
reward. And I think sometimes mitigating the risk and finding the balance between the two allows us to thrive. So I can't expect everyone to understand the perspective of a business owner, but I know so many directors who look at centres as if they're their own, feel those pains, feel those ups and downs. So many kinder teachers where you look at how they're delivering their program and the ups and downs that they have to deal with. How many educators that are working on site day to day that have to deal with parents and situations that arise and conflict and people calling in sick. Like anyone who works in early childcare has to be so adaptive and so flexible. And I'm almost going to turn around and say and I'm not saying this in a bad way, we are warriors. Every day is going to be a new battle. Every day is something that we're going to have to face. And what people don't realize is all those things that we experience, for good or bad, everything always has to be with a smile on your face. Because end of the day, it's perception versus reality. We we as
It is.
people, we put on this brave face. We deal with so many different things, and everything is done with a smile. And I think that's the calming influence for those around us. If we're panicking at the top, that panic sets in all the way through, and no different to a Chinese whisper. Next thing you know, it's chaos down the bottom. So having positive,
Yes.
calming, supportive element means that everyone looks at it and says, you know what, it's going to be a great day. Tomorrow is going to be an even better day. And you look at the end of the week, you look back and you go, all of a sudden, it wasn't that bad. It is.
Yeah, it's a big picture, isn't it? It's just looking at those
Everything
bumps in
is
the road
one day at a time, one
and
step at a
and
time.
everyone.
I joke with people and I say, left foot,
Yeah,
right foot, your body
yeah,
will
and
follow. It's just one of those. Oh,
that's
it's
actually a
literally
great
one of those
saying.
things where so many people are looking down the line and they're like, oh my God, it is so far away. It is so hard. How am I going to achieve that? And you just look at them and go, well, one step at a time. Let's break this down into its simplest form. And one step at a time, we're going to start building momentum. And with momentum, you will have your success. And we just have to focus on the right things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and look, and I'll just take you back to where you mentioned earlier about doing those reviews where he's done 120 reviews this year.
Oh,
That's the
definitely.
one step at a time. That so rather than doing one in a year, they go, oh, a year down the track, who's going to remember? But having that little, those checks along the way. Are we getting there? How are we doing that? Not only have you got perspective as a business owner, what you've got is your educators and your staff thinking that they can do
If
this.
we're looking at things for what they are, breaking things down into their simplest form, go back to that logic. Whenever you have a problem, just break it down into its simplest
Yep,
form. Now, as business owners, we turn around and say, well, how can we fix a problem that we don't know exists yet? It's always the people at ground level who are working with others who can see those things firsthand. Our eyes and ears are always going to be the people in the field. So just by us sitting down with them and
yep,
having a better understanding of what they're facing, what they understand, what they're going through, that is what sets us up for success. There's no filter to that because it's a case of I experienced this. Now, okay, is that one of those things where
yes,
it's an issue that we have in the context of are you trained to better deal with these situations? Is it something that was misinterpreted? Is it a lack of communication or something that was lost in translation? Awesome, we can fix these things. And no different to what I said earlier, it's the little
that's right.
things you fix along the way that you can then look at, and all of a sudden, something small never had the opportunity to become something big.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll share something with you. This is just totally
Please.
off course here a little bit about what you're saying. Is back in, I mean, my kids are old enough now, but back when they were at school, you got this semester
Yeah.
report sort of thing,
Oh,
and they'd write in that,
yes.
do you remember? And they'd write in something that happened 3 months ago. Like, well,
Yeah, you look at it
why
as
didn't
a
you tell
parent
me
and go,
back then?
well, hold on, you could have told me so much longer and it could have been dealt with. Instead, now we're talking about it 3 months later.
Yeah, and of course everything then becomes bigger than it needed to be, rather than resolving it when it was just that little issue or whatever it was. Rather than 3 to 6 months down the track, there's no point, is there? So it's the
We
same sort
tell
of thing
everyone,
was what
and
you're
this
saying
goes
there.
from staff all the way through to services. Bad news doesn't get any better over time. And the sooner we're aware of something, the sooner we can fix it. There's no point saying, well, you know what, we have an issue with quality, but it never being brought to anyone's attention. I really look at those things. And again, as I said, we
Yeah,
don't believe in contracts. And I'm never going to turn around and say everyone's perfect.
yeah,
So looking at that, okay, let's identify the problem, fix the problem. There's no more problem. But we need to be told. We need eyes and ears everywhere. That's one of the greatest hardships that we're going to that faces a mobile business is the fact that we are a mobile business. we're always going to be dependent on the information coming to us, separate to obviously when we get out. I think at last check, we currently
Yep.
look after over 22,000 children in any given week. So for the amount of interaction that we have on a day to day, when you start breaking those things down, you go, okay, so what has happened? To be able to filter through that, there is an element of trust that we have to put in people, and again, it's services and our staff. But if
Absolutely.
something's not working, tell us straight away. And I've always loved the line of, look, we
Yeah.
thought they were having an off day. It happens to everyone. Well, an off day would have been once, not 4 or 5 times. So it happened once. Okay, you know what? Let's give them the benefit
That's
of the
right.
doubt. Second week, even if maybe you want to still trust them, still bring it to my attention, please, because by the third week, it should be corrected. Like as I said, we're not a franchise. We're nothing like that.
Absolutely.
Every ounce of feedback comes back to age, Robbie, or myself. And if we're not dealing with it, then that says more
Yeah.
about us as people.
Yeah. And that's such a great point for our audience to take away is communicate not only the good but also communicate what's going wrong. And if we look at our question back to our business owner mind, that's the only way that you know what's
People
happening
have
as a
always
business
learned
owner.
more from their failures than they ever have from their successes. Even for us as a business, go
Absolutely.
we
Oh,
still joke about it now. Like every year, and it's always through the month of December, we reminisce. Robbie and I will sit down, we'll have a coffee, and it's almost like we remember where we were years ago, and we look at where we are now, and we have to pinch ourselves. But that didn't happen overnight. How many mistakes did we have to make? How many things did we have to go through?
oh,
How across the board, did we have to lose centers? Did we have to lose staff? Did we have to change suppliers? Like there are so many variables that happen day to day. But you now look at all those things now and look at what
absolutely.
we've become, and everyone thinks, "Oh my God, it was an overnight success." Oh, for
And
her
it's
to
not
spring
really.
from it,
It's the slot and the
correct?
hamster wheel and the things that that aren't necessarily bad or wrong, just didn't fit. Just do something. It is what it is, right? Life's like that. Hey, now what we also do is we ask all of our guests, looking forward, what are the big challenges facing the early learning sector over the next few years?
We
I think
have.
we've spoken about
Look,
most of it in this.
there's no way anyone that says, "Oh, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen tomorrow," in my personal opinion, is full of it. The greatest challenge that we're all going to face is tomorrow, literally, because we don't know what is in
Yeah,
store. I can only look at my experience in the early youth sector over the last 7.5 years, and if someone turned around to me and said that we would have staff shortages, if someone turned around to me and said we'd have um, inflationary squeezes, if someone turned around and said we'd have pandemics, like how do you prepare for these things? You can't. It's not possible. As I said, no one's a fortune teller. All we can really do is, I think, separate to the journey that we're going down, always look at an element of reflection and really look at things for what they are. I mean, a wise person once upon a time said to me that past problems are not an indication of future solutions. Now, that in itself speaks volumes because if every day we're looking to better ourselves, now that could be our knowledge, that could be our application, that could be our delivery. If we're doing that, all we can do is sort of hope that we're preparing ourselves for whatever comes into the future. We're going to have so many things that aren't in our control. If we can only control the factors that are,
oh,
and we do that well, then I personally believe that will hold us in good stead for tomorrow.
that's actually great because that great advice, like great. That's not necessarily specifically looking at one particular thing, but by applying that, you can sort of cover all those things
We
that
don't,
we don't know
but we
what the
don't
future
even
holds.
know
None of us do.
the struggles or the pains of what people go through day to day. For some people, it may be staff shortages. Other people will turn around and say, I have very low staff turnover, so I don't have that problem. So we're all going to go through different things. And to turn around and say, well, I can foresee this being an issue, it may be for some, but it also may not be for others. All we can really look at are the factors that we can
Yeah,
directly
yeah,
control on a day to day and hope, because I think in anything we do, there's always going to be an element of luck. But if we do the right thing and
absolutely.
do it in the right way, I also believe we can manufacture our own luck.
and that by your vision, you'll actually support by having that vision of those facing those any challenge. Your staff feel supported as well. So you were talking earlier, it's that
It's
if there's anxiety or things
every
from the
business,
top down,
every
it's going
business,
to come down.
regardless of what the business is governed by its staff. As owners,
Yep.
directors, kinder teachers, ed leaders, you're one person. And when you're leading a team of many, I challenge anyone that upsets that many to try and find a balance after that. Everything we do is give and take. Everything. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
matter
hard.
what it is. And it's those
It is.
people that will always make or
Oh,
break us
it
as
all is.
individuals.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's exactly right. Well, now before we finish up, and I know you've said a few personal wise
Uh,
words and mottos through this, so pick one, or have you got a new one? Would you like to share like a wise word
Look,
with
I'm
our
not,
listeners?
I do, I, I don't pretend to be smart. I may have attributes, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't exactly say that education and wisdom are my forte. Uh, and I think history has taught me a lot of valuable lessons. Just so you can laugh, my business partner and I, we met at trade school. We were both electrical apprentices back in the day. And he did.
Did you finish?
I decided to destroy my ankle and be off work for a long period of time, which sort of compromised my apprenticeship. But
Well,
the one thing that
yep.
I'll say is, and it's something that I've probably bought into more and more over the years. It's a Latin phrase. It's amore fati, and all it means is a love of fate. Now, I can't control the outcome of tomorrow, but if I can just continue to do the right thing by myself and the people around me today, I think somewhere down the line, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And what we can do is be the best versions of
Yeah.
ourselves for that.
Oh wow. Well, what a wonderful wise word, and that quote to end our catch up on today with George. It's been
Well, thank
fun
you for having
as
me. As I said,
always.
it's unexpected.
I love fun.